Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Connie Zabo-Schmucker. I'm Advocacy Director at Bicycle Garage Indy. Welcome to the Bicycling Lunch and Learn. And I'm joined by Ross Reinhardt and Sean Hawk, and they're going to talk about how they've gotten their family bicycling. And this is a monthly program, the Lunch and Learns, and we do it via Zoom on the second Thursday of the month, and from 12 to noon. So we've got some programs, some great programs planned for the rest of the year. This is a cooperative endeavor between Bicycle Garage Indy, Bike Indianapolis, Central Indiana Bicycling Association, Commuter Connect, and YMCA. So we're happy to have you join us. And I'm going to turn, I've noticed that half of the lettering disappeared and I have no idea why that is. Hopefully that won't be on the other slides. We'll see. It's going to be interesting because I'm not sure how I can, well, it looks okay. Okay.
Yeah, that looks good.
All right. So I'm going to have Sean start off, and then as we're going through this program, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat, and we'll either take care of them then or take care of them afterwards, or any comments, and then we'll open it up to question and answers after both of them have presented. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and mute myself, and I will let Sean go. If you are not muted, please do, and I'll let Sean go ahead. Thanks.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name's Sean, and I have worked at Bicycle Garage Indy for around 20 years now. It's been a really good place to work. This is a picture of my wife, Courtney, and our son, William, in the front of one of our bikes. And so this is kind of how we started out with riding around when William was probably around 10 months old or so, just big enough to be able to kind of maintain, holding himself up and all that good stuff. So this was a really good way to keep an eye on what he was up to and to be able to communicate with him, which was really nice. A little bit different than what a lot of folks will do with having him in a trailer or on a seat behind the adult. So we thought this was a really nice option, especially where you can carry all of your goodies along with you, like toys and food and activities and stuff. Next slide, Connie. So it's nice because I just feel like the communication is so much better when you're able to have them right there in front of you, just so that you're able to see what they're up to and to chat. It's really nice. And because they can carry all their toys and things with them, which is pretty handy also. We can go to the next slide. So with this bike that we got, we bought it as like a kit. And so we pretty much put it together piece by piece. And one of the nice things that came with it was a rain cover. So it would help to keep your contents or your little person inside nice and dry, and a little bit warmer too, because it helps to block the wind quite a bit. And the next slide. Maybe the next one. Especially on days like this where it's pretty snowy, we found that having some sort of like heated pad is pretty nice. So that way it keeps your passenger a little bit more warm. We chose just to have him sit on a heating pad that was nice and warm, and that worked great. It would kind of extend our riding time a little bit more before he would be too cold and we'd have to go back inside. We can go to the next one. So then as he was a little bit old, older, we had a couple of Strider bikes that we had indoors. So that made it a little bit easier for him to kind of use it as, like one of those baby walker devices, just a little bit different. So it kind of made it a little bit more fun for him and easier for him to stand up and kind of move around the house. And it got him really acclimated to how, how to turn and kind of got more used to the bike. We can go to the next one. So this was a really snowy day that he was just in here for the picture. But yeah, probably a little bit too snowy to have him out in the wild that day. We can go on to the next one. This is not our bike, but we were fortunate to be able to borrow it for a little while. It's very similar to the bike that you saw in some of the previous slides, except that it has an electric motor, which for the person riding the bike makes it quite a bit more easy to balance and easy to get moving, especially if you have a little bit of weight in the front of the bike. And especially if you're a more petite person as well, it's going to make it a little bit more seamless to start riding. We can go to the next one. So we started off with Strider bikes, and then we switched to a bike that had training wheels. And I think that probably didn't necessarily help things out for us, because when we switched to the training wheels, he became a little bit more reliant on those. So it was almost like a step backwards a little bit. So it took us probably a couple of months of taking the training wheels on and off. And he would always want to help do that. So involving them in the process of taking the training wheels off and putting them back on is kind of helpful. Just so they kind of are a little bit more aware of what's going on and they feel involved. So then one day, it was probably early spring, we took the training wheels off for the last time, and then he pretty much just took off. And it's been a pretty wild ride ever since. We can go to the next slide. William probably goes to the bike shop at least once a week, which is pretty nice. He gets to see a lot of different things and like new bikes and new stuff that's come in. He always likes to find his favorite things, like the lights. So if you do have if you are interested in having your family do more biking, then I would say taking them to the bike shop is going to be helpful, just so that they have a little bit more interaction with what goes on there and all the fun stuff that they can see and do and look at. We can go to the next slide. So this is the bike that he was riding last year. And we chose this particular bike because it is a little bit more lightweight than some of the traditional bikes that you'll find. And it also only had handbrakes. So that was helpful because sometimes the coaster brake will make it a little bit harder for kids to get riding because they don't necessarily understand pedaling forward and pedaling backwards. And so a lot of times they'll pedal backwards by accident, and then that just stops them immediately. And they lose all their momentum when they didn't necessarily mean to stop. So having a bike where it's able to freewheel and coast without a coaster brake is going to be, it's going to help them to get riding a little bit faster. We have a friend of ours, and their child was having a difficult time breaking away from a bike with a coaster brake because he would always want to stop accidentally. And so we loaned them this bike, and within about a week or two, the little boy was just riding all over the neighborhood. He had gotten the hang of it really quick. So it was pretty impressive what a bike like this could do. And being lightweight is important because of how small they are. It makes the bike a lot more manageable and maneuverable for someone that's a little bit smaller. And then of course on the back, it has a rear rack so you can carry all of his stuff. We've got him like a saddlebag so he can carry his stuffed animals and all that good stuff, some snacks and cool things like that. We can go to the next slide, Connie. So this was probably the first day that he had ridden on the open road. He was around four and a half roughly. We had a pretty tough morning and just having a hard time getting out of the house. And he pretty much demanded that he ride his own bike to the preschool. And I wasn't really interested in it because we were already going to be late and he was having a tough morning. So I didn't really feel great about it. However, it was kind of just about our only option at that point to get him out of the house. So we took off on the road, and that was a pretty eye-opening experience for me because I had to be a lot more, I had to think ahead a lot faster because I had to be able to communicate with him about what our plan was, where we were turning, where we had to stop. There were cars around, so we had to be cautious. I feel pretty fortunate because I have such a large bike, the bike with that wooden front end. So that kind of helps to make us feel a little bit more well seen on the road. And then afterwards, once we got to the preschool, he was extremely happy with himself. So that was great for his confidence. We can go to the next slide. And sometimes I'll do anything to get him outside of the house. So even if he's in his pajamas, that's okay. It could be worse. We can go to the next slide. So I've always been into mountain biking, and I was really hoping that William would want to be mountain biking as well, so that way we could go ride together. So one day my wife and myself and William all went to go ride out over at Fort Harrison, and we made it about 500 feet, and that was about it. He was just a little bit too scared, even though it was a pretty simple hiking and biking trail, just a little bit overwhelming. So we had to be extra patient and really understanding that he wasn't ready that day. And so it was okay for us to come back another day and try again. So patience is one of those things that I've definitely had to work on as we've been on this adventure. And he's gotten so much better with mountain biking, which has been really nice. We put on some wider tires, so that seemed to help quite a bit when he's riding over small obstacles and roots and rocks and things. We can go to the next slide. So after we had ridden Fort Harrison for several months and gotten pretty used to it, we headed down to Brown County, where there's a little bit more, the trail's a little bit more difficult and there's a little bit more elevation. But fortunately for William and myself, because I needed a break at the end, there was a playground, so we were able to stop at the playground and rest and enjoy ourselves quite a bit. So it was having a reward at the end is always pretty nice, just to kind of keep them motivated, and also trying to realize when they're getting tired, and keeping them well fed is pretty critical also, so that way you can avoid meltdowns. Next slide. Last summer, we also did a few events where he was able to kind of do like, fun kids races where it's a little bit more like a pretend race. They're just out there having fun. And it's nice because it's for all ages. And this was at one of the downtown bike races. I forget which one last summer. Next slide. We also like to go and do bike rides around the neighborhood just to go see what's around. In this picture, you can see the really large skeleton behind us. This is at our friend's house. So he always likes to go see all kinds of stuff. So it makes it fun. You just have to think of creative ways to get him outside, because sometimes he just doesn't want to go outside and go ride around, which is okay. And I have to be able to understand that and accept that he doesn't want to go ride as much as I do. But it's also, trying to keep him motivated to know that it's a good way to get around, and we don't have to drive our car everywhere, and we don't have to walk everywhere. It's just, it's another good option to get places. Next slide. And this is us when we were out at on the south side doing the Southwestway Mountain bike trails. This is a really nice one that he enjoyed quite a bit. Next slide. And trying to get him used to riding in different conditions, like dark or a little bit of rain or a little bit of snow. Just so the kids know that a little bit of not great weather or a little bit of darkness is going to be okay. Having safety devices like headlights and taillights is pretty critical for adults and children, even if it's even having lights on during the daytime is really almost essential anymore. Next slide. So as you can see here, biking to school in the snow. He thinks it's great. I think it's still pretty chilly, but it's I'm glad that he enjoys it. Next slide. So this is his current bike that we just got. So he hasn't really ridden it too much this year off-road, but we've been doing a lot of riding around the neighborhood, which has been nice. Next slide. And this one's just a little bit out of order, but whenever he's in the shop, he likes to help out quite a bit. And I'm fortunate for my coworkers that allow him to help out, and they do seem to enjoy teaching him a little bit also. Next slide. So again, this is his newest bike. It's real similar to the other one. Pretty lightweight, a little bit larger frame, a little bit larger tire. Switches over to a bike with gears and a stronger brake system. Suspension fork for riding off-road, which is pretty nice, especially since it's set up for a smaller, more lightweight person. It's going to give them quite a bit more control and stability when they're riding off-road. And he really seemed to enjoy building it, which was pretty fun for both of us. It's a good way to help your kids become a little bit more mechanically inclined and aware of what's going on when they can be a little bit more interactive. Next slide. So this is just us out for a bike ride that same day after we got the bike built up, just enjoying ourselves on the cultural trail downtown. Next slide. And I didn't realize how much faster he would be once we added gears. So he's pretty speedy. So that's required quite a bit more communication as well, because sometimes he'll want to speed ahead, and we've had to work on it pretty heavily with not getting too far ahead and being aware of all of the road hazards that we need to be aware of while we're out there. So again, communication is really critical. Next slide. As you can see, he's got his lights on. We're just out running some errands. We were dog sitting over at a friend's house, so we're just heading back home after that. Next slide. And out for a bike ride with our friend Joey. So riding along the Monon Trail detour there. Next slide. And here we are. I think this was our first mountain bike trip this year out at Fort Harrison. So just getting used to the new bike a little bit. Next slide. And then here he is riding up at Town Run, trails up on the north side, a little bit faster riding. Next slide. Back riding with our friend Joey. So it's always fun to go with people, makes a little bit more, builds a little bit more feeling of community for them also when they can see their friends out there riding. Next slide. And so I decided I didn't want to lock up his brand new mountain bike at school every day. So we decided to have a backup bike just in case. So this is a nice, simple bike, single speed, has handbrakes, and it's fairly lightweight also. So that way it's pretty manageable for him, which is nice, and easy to lock up. So that's great. Next slide. And just getting out around your neighborhood, going to see different things, going to visit some parks, see your friends. I pretty much just try to find any way I can get him outside on his bike. And then on the next slide, we've got us as we're heading on our way to Bike to Work Day. So we did Bike to Work Day, and then we did Bike to School just after that. Next slide. So there he is in the middle of the screen there, just checking out all the festivities. Next slide. And then this is the final one I've got. This is probably the most up-to-date picture I've got, riding with his friend Joey, probably from about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Just out enjoying the Fall Creek Trail. Yeah, so this is pretty much beginning to end of William's bicycle career. We've got a long way to go. So our plans for the future are maybe get him into a little bit of bike racing if he's interested, or at the very least, just try to keep him biking around as much as he can for errands and fun things around the city. I can't think of too much else that I've got to say. I'd be happy to take any questions if anybody has any.
There are a couple of comments, so let me check those. 100% agree on no training wheels. That's also my mantra. If I could rule the world, there would be no training wheels. And coaster brakes, I find it difficult when I'm teaching kids and adults how to ride bikes if they have coaster brakes to get the pedals in the proper position and stopped. So, and it also just separating hands from feet as far as braking is really helpful. Let's see. How do you think the front cargo bike helped teach him communication while riding? Do you talk to him while riding?
The being in a little bit more close proximity than being in a trailer, I would say that made it quite a bit more easy to chat with him.
And let's see. Somebody used an Ibert front style seat. And then 913 Sports has a program to let kids build their own bike. There's a cost to the program, and there's a link in the chat, which I'll be sharing the chat. When we share the link to the recording, we'll have that as well. So somebody would like hints about how to get a family started bike riding a grandma with grandkids. And have you considered using helmets with intercom communication?
Oh, that's a cool idea. I haven't considered using helmets with an intercom communication, but that is a cool idea. Maybe when he's a little bit older and getting further away from me. Yeah. That's a good idea. Or a walkie-talkie or something. That's a good suggestion. What was the other question, Connie?
Getting a family started with bike riding a grandma with grandkids.
Okay. Grandma with grandkids, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question for sure. I mean, having the bikes for them to go ride around on would be, I'd say, the first place to start, and then having a place where everyone feels safe to go ride at would be next. So that way, maybe it's not on the street, maybe it's in a park that's large enough to ride around in. So that way you don't have concerns about traffic or other hazards.
I would think, if you went to a trail and like you said, rewards afterwards, say we're going to go, or you have a destination, we're going to ride this trail to this park, play, have a picnic lunch or have some snacks and then come back. something like that.
Yeah, that's great.
Something like that. I'm going to stop sharing now. And let me see, there's one more comment. My son is 9 and he gets out in front of me all the time. So I suggest to add a flashing tail light and flashing handlebar headlight on their bikes. Is another comment. And I'm going to turn this over to Ross now for Ross to do his presentation.
Awesome, thanks. I've got some serious bike envy with that Sean's Bachfeets and Williams bikes and all those pictures. Those are some pretty cool bikes. So yeah, my name's Ross, and I've got 3 kids, and just really excited to be able to share some of our experience riding with them with you all. Can you see the I've got a biking with kids slide up there? Is that visible on the screen now? All right, cool.
Yes, it is.
Cool. Well, to kind of start off, one of the things kind of Sean touched on, but this loomed large for us, so I thought I'd mention it right off the bat, is the safety in the infrastructure. I was asking our little riders, we have 3 kids, and I was asking our little riders what was the most important to them as they were getting started riding. And one of the first things they mentioned was they wanted to feel comfortable and safe while they were riding. Safety felt really important to them. And the other was they wanted to go to fun destinations. So that I kind of just pinned everything I wanted to share off of their feedback there. I figured they knew. So our kids are between 5 and 9 years old, just to kind of give you an idea of where we're at currently. This picture is one from Tom Flood on Twitter shared it, and it resonated with me because it kind of so many times have been in a situation where we're riding and you get that feeling that this isn't quite safe as I would like it to be. And you'll see a lot of the stuff that I kind of share here is kind of us grappling with that environment. So obviously the safer we can make the environments over time, the better it will be for kids. With ours in particular, I found that they love the freedom of getting out on their bike, and they're more than capable and dying to get out there. And so I think the more that we can make that safe for people, it'll enable more of that. In fact, in the middle of the winter, as I look around, I notice most of the other people that are out there biking around are actually young people that are, using this freedom to go to Target or go to a friend's house, even in the middle of winter with snow on the ground, which is pretty cool. They're really drawn to that freedom. Now, as a part of that, one lesson that I've learned that's loomed really large is that I need to find and respect the kids' limits in order to make them comfortable with riding. This particular path I was on with my daughter, and we were talking as we were riding, and she didn't appear to be having a super great time at the moment. And we were talking, and she was expressing that she wasn't super comfortable with this particular place because the cars are supposed to be going 30, but they typically go more like 45 or 50. And because of that noise and the speed, and the road is raised a little bit, so you're kind of looking at their bumpers as they go past you. She expressed this was not an area she was comfortable with, so we adapted and we found other routes to get to the YMCA, which this was kind of our path to the YMCA. But in order for them to want to ride with me, I realized I had to be cognizant of their limits, and then respect those. They're not my limits. They're riding with me, and I need to be cognizant of their limits. So that was a lesson that we ended up learning. The other one is the fun destinations. The thing that's been absolutely key for us and getting the kids on the bikes is having fun destinations to go to. The kids were telling me the other day that they've started to associate the more that we've ridden bikes, the more that we've actually gone and done fun things. So they're associating the bikes with sort of being like a key to their city, where they can get out and they can go to a fun concert or go out to eat or go to the bakery, get something sweet, or even just go down to the playground. So for us, that's been the huge motivator. They want to jump on the bikes and go. Now, it kind of, which bikes we jump on is kind of the next part I was going to talk about, because there's a sliding scale, the different destinations. There's kind of a sliding scale of, places that are either, really safe to ride and we're kind of riding more recreationally, all the way over to like, well, we really need to get to a destination, and maybe it's not quite as safe and great for the kids to be riding in. And so here's kind of some configurations and how we've addressed that ourselves. Of course, the kids have their own bikes, and especially when we're recreationally riding, they just absolutely love to jump on their bikes any chance they get. Sometimes one thing that I found helpful when they're just learning is if I go for a jog or something and I'm not necessarily on my bike, they love to ride along behind me while we're doing a jog or something, or even just out for a walk. It's kind of a great opportunity for them to keep building those skills. But a hard lesson that we learned here is be careful which bikes you buy for them. We bought a couple of their bikes from like a Target or a Walmart, and it's ended up being kind of a discouraging factor for them. So there's the tale of two pink bikes there. The one in the front, the Electra, we got from a reputable bike shop, and it's a solid bike. The one behind it we got from Target, I think. It's a Huffy. And it's been incredibly discouraging to our daughter as she moved from one to the other. The ride is not nearly as nice. The gearing is off, so it's been discouraging to her as she tries to ride, and it's harder than it really needs to be. A lesson we learned the hard way is even if you get used, get a nice solid bike for them from a reputable bike shop. On the upper right, the two boys, our son on the right is riding up a Hot Rock we just got from Bicycle Garage from used. It was used pretty much the same price as one of the new ones from a big box store, but the quality difference was incredibly different between the two. So I wanted to share that to help people not make the same mistake we did. Now, sometimes we have to take them with us. We started out with a bike trailer. The bike trailer was a nice way for us to kind of get introduced to sort of carrying them with us. The bike ride's very similar to how it would without them with you. But you also can't really talk to them. They're kind of back there, and it's not as fun. Something I wish we had known earlier on when having this bike trailer was that you can actually unclip the seat and lay it down, and it makes a really terrific flatbed trailer for picking up groceries for the week for the whole family. So if you have one of these and you don't know it does that, now you know. That's something we wish we knew earlier. We went from the bike trailer trying to figure out other configurations. We wanted to kind of feel more engaged with the kids. So one thing we started to experiment with was just extra seats on our standard bicycle. So my favorites so far have been a seat from a company called Doolittle that mounts on the front of the frame. Our little guy, he's 5 years old. He still rides up there often. And that's been a terrific seat. There's also one from a company called Urban Iki that sits on your back rack, and it has another bar to help reinforce it. And this has been nice for I just want to take the boys with me and go somewhere. The youngest one sitting up front, he's still kind of feeling the balance and feeling how I'm steering. So when he went to transition to riding his own bike, he just jumped on that thing and took off, maybe a little too quickly because he hadn't quite figured out how to use the brakes yet. But the balance and how to steer, he had down from all the riding on the front, which was pretty exciting. And you can see the trailer kind of makes a reprisal there as a Christmas tree cart. We're taking our Christmas tree over to the recycling. From there, we were kind of starting to go even more places, and I wanted a way to carry more groceries and carry the kids with me. We ended up getting Yuba Mundo, and this bike has been a whole lot of fun. As you can see, we're all jumping up on it there after we'd gone out for some dinner. A key thing here, you can see that the Doolittle seat made a reprisal on the front of this one. I had a little difficulty early on with if I loaded it up too heavy on the back, the front wheel would get kind of, the steering would get kind of loose and it felt a little strange. But by putting that Doolittle seat on the front of the Yuba Mundo, it's balanced it out just perfectly. We love that configuration now. And it helps us bridge where there's maybe not safe infrastructure. So like on the far right, we're actually towing one of their bikes. We're on our way over to a path that's a little safer for us to ride on. We just wanted to kind of go for a recreational ride, but the trip over wasn't something that at least I had the energy to negotiate at that time to help him keep away from the traffic and whatnot. So the Yuba Mundo was nice to help us kind of bridge that, getting when we needed to get over to a safer place for him to ride. And this chain, so a tip that we've picked up as we ride with their little bikes, it can be a real big pain in the butt to have to lock up all these little bikes when you get to where you're going. So we got this bicycle chain that goes on the frame of the Mundo, and you can actually just string it. What we do is we string it through all the little bikes and then tie off to the bike racks. So it makes it a lot easier for us to quickly park and lock up all their little bikes. The other thing is, with the 3 kids, they have so much stuff, all the water bottles and all the toys and the markers, just in case inspiration strikes for drawing while you're out and about. And so something that's been critical for us there is on the left, there's a bike that has those yellow panniers. We ended up buying these from, I think it was a place called Holland Bike Shop or something. But it's made out of this waterproof material, and they're just cavernous. They hold all the water bottles and all the picnic and everything that we need to kind of go along with the kids. And then on the right is another way. On that bike, I rode down to a nature preserve with 2 of the boys, and we were keeping our stuff in the basket on the front. That was a basket from Bicycle Garage on the north side. It's just been nice to kind of stow their stuff in really easy when we're riding somewhere. Something that surprised us is, it turns out biking requires willing participants. And we were leaving the farmer's market the other day, and we didn't buy the popcorn and the pastries, and somebody wasn't happy about that. And you get into a car and you get in a car seat, you can put them in the car seat even if they're fussing, not ideal, but on a bike, you need a willing participant. And that was something that's been interesting for us to realize. You really have to kind of get down on their level and work through their frustration and hug it out before you can leave, because you can't have somebody on your bike or riding their bike with you that doesn't want to. So that's something that caught us by surprise. But if you run into that situation, maybe a little heads up kind of will help avoid some of the surprise that we ran into. In the winter, the kids had some favorite things. The ski goggles, the little guy on the front, you see the picture of the little kind of grainy picture of him sitting on the front with the ski goggles. He loves those things to keep the cold out of his face. And the helmet liner under their helmet, they enjoyed that. And the kids came up with last winter when they were riding around, we have those paper masks that have been floating around the last couple of years. And the kids discovered they love to put the paper masks on to keep their face warm on the bicycle. So little bicycle hack from the little riders there. They've loved that. Safety wise, we've been putting these little flags on their bikes just to kind of make sure they're visible. With some of the cars that have higher hoods, I wanted to kind of make sure that they were visible. Bicycle Garage has this huge bin of these things. We've been picking them up. And the neighbor kids now have thought they were so cool that they've been asking for them on their bikes. So I had to pick up a few extra ones so I could start putting them on the neighbor kids' bikes too, because they thought they were super cool. Being out with the kids, I've been a little more sensitive to safety around traffic. Some of my favorite tools to work with that is I found this. There's a product called Brightside that it's a bicycle flasher that flashes to the side. It's like a yellow strobe that flashes to the side. And if I'm in a situation that doesn't feel quite as safe, I'm concerned about side visibility, it's nice to flip that on. I bought some yellow vests from the hardware store. You can get them for like $5, and they pack up into a tiny little bundle. But I keep that in case if I think we're going to be potentially out after dark, I'll pull one of those out. It doesn't take a lot of space up. And then I have a favorite light the kids call the God light because you can turn night into day. It feels like the heavens have opened when you turn it on. And sometimes if I know we're going to be out late with a lot of people around, like going to fireworks 4th of July, we'll take that. And if things start to get dicey, you can light up the ground with the God light. And that's been something that helps my parent heart at least feel a little more comfortable sometimes. Yeah, that's a little bit from our experience. Thanks for letting me share that with you all today. And I have some, if anybody's interested in can't find some of that stuff, I've got some links I pulled together of some of those different things I was talking about.
So if you want to send me the links as well, then I can put those in the description of the video when I put it up on YouTube. So that'd be great.
That's awesome.
And if you want to send me your slides, I've got Sean's slides, but if you want to send me that, then I can also do that. If these people want to download those, if you're willing to do that.
For sure.
Yeah, so there are a couple of comments. Let me see. So speaking of winter, let's see. Speaking of winter biking, he started Zwifting with his son when he was 8. Roy did. And you can buy an adapter to be able to use a 20-inch bike on a Cyclops fluid trainer. And he loves it. So Zwift allows you to set a free kid account, which is managed from the adult account, which I didn't know about. That's kind of cool. And then another person, I'm a grandfather who's returned to cycling last year after 15 or more years. It's my favorite pastime in retirement. I'm hoping to be a catalyst for cycling with my 6 grandkids. This is helpful. Thanks. So, awesome. Let's see. People like the Yuba. Lightweight frame makes the tantrums a handful more manageable. Like dragging a kid in a bike also counts as a workout.
So true.
And then some of the links. So yeah, so does anybody else, you can unmute yourself if you want, if you have any questions that you want to ask either of the presenters. And I would like to also just take this time to thank Ross and Sean for your presentation. It's always fun to hear how families are getting out and how you're doing, getting people more, more people biking. When you start out, when you start them young, then hopefully they'll continue, right? Anybody have any questions? No. All right. Well, thank you all for coming. Thanks to the
Hey,
presenters.
Connie, I do have something I'd add.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that that the presenter did a great job, and that what I found in kind of leading the charge with my son as well, and biking in the community and biking around the neighborhood, that you end up mentoring other kids that are your neighbors because they see you and your children out riding. So I've got a slew of kids on my cul-de-sac, and they just are wanting to know all kinds of stuff about biking. So, just don't underestimate your impact, not only on your kids, but the kids that live around you as well.
Great comment.
To that point, I thought it was kind of funny. We have a neighbor, and the first time he saw us riding out with the kids on the bike seats or on the Yuba, I remember he was like, "You guys, that's dangerous. What are you doing? I've never seen anything like that." And then, fast forward a few months down the road, and now he just loves waving and saying hi to us. And he's like, "I'm thinking about getting one of those e-bike things and riding around." So he's kind of gone through this whole transformation, seeing us right out of the neighborhood. This is fun.
Yeah, my son's gotten to the point where he'll drag, like if the neighborhood's kid, if they have a flat tire or drop a chain, he just drags their bike up our driveway and hands it to me. It's like, my dad will fix your bike.
If I can advocate just for family cycling, and my kids are grown. My daughter's 40, my son is 37. But their conversations, just family conversations, their remembrances of growing up and riding the bike trails, especially in the summer. Our last name is Like, L-Y-K-E, and we called ourselves the Likes on Bikes. And it is just something that has been a major part of our family legacy. So it's a bonding experience. So I certainly encourage it. And now I'm hoping to build some of that with my grandkids.
That's
so
awesome. So let's see. So if anybody else has any additional questions or comments, if not, I will go ahead and end the meeting. Thank you all for coming. We will have this on the second second Thursday of July. I don't remember off the top of my head what that topic is, but you can go to indybikehub.org and you'll see the link to register for future lunch and learns, as well as what the topics are and recordings of previous lunch and learns. So there's a slew of them. That's where our archives are, as well as they're on Bicycle Garage Indy's YouTube channel. So thank you all for coming, and we will see you hopefully next month. Have a great day. Bye.